So set 13 is now live on the PBE, and if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend giving this set a shot because the units are pretty fucking cool, the traits are pretty interesting, and overall, TFT feels very fun to play, and that's what's most important. And speaking of fun, in today's video, we're going to be going over my top 5 compositions that I think you should definitely try out before the set hits the live servers. These compositions, just as a little disclaimer, I don't predict them to be like the best compositions ever, but I've had a lot of fun playing them myself when trying out the PBE. Before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping is required, and if you don't know already, Project MENTR, these signups close in 2 days at the time of recording this video. And if you don't know what it is, I'll put a link in the description below if you want to find out a lot more and more in depth. But TLDR, you get to get paired with a top challenger tier player for the entirety of a competitive split in teamfight tactics. And I'm talking, this is cream of the crop. We're talking about people who have consistently hit rank 1 in their respective servers. One player who's actually hit rank 1 global before. We have players who have been to worlds, and we have players who are consistently making regionals. These are some really top tier players. And if you get selected for this program, because there is an interview process, you will be able to work with these mentors one-on-one twice a week with 1 hour plus coaching sessions. And not only that, you have a direct channel that is accessible to you and your mentor that is available to you 24/7. You also have mid-set, end-of-set tournaments that are exclusive to mentees only. And this is a really big draw, by the way, that I think is really great for the program. You get to learn how to prep for a tournament. So if you're playing in the trials and you're aiming to try to go to the cups and maybe even try to go further than that, this is a really great program to learn how to do that because you are working with players who have experience with that. I don't know any other program in the TFT space that actually offers that. So again, for bang for buck, this is insane value in my opinion. And finally, you also get optional pro VOD review sessions once a week that are led by yours truly. So these are optional because twice a week is already a lot of coaching, but then you also have these optional VOD review sessions if you want to just hop in, and we just basically talk about like pro gameplay, you know, talk about decision points, like what this guy could have done better, what is a good and bad decision at X spot, etc. This is open to all mentees, all mentors. So this is a good way to not only just like get better at the game, but also learn more about the people in the community and just getting to be a part of it. So if you're interested, again, I'll put a sign up link and I'll put another description, you know, I'll put the video that describes the whole project down below in the description. That was a bit redundant. But now that we've gone through that, let's actually finally talk about the fun comps that you should be trying out inside the PBE. And the first one to talk about is none other than vertical chem-baron. Now, if you don't know what this is already, that means you probably have been in the dark and you've not been watching any streamers, because I feel like this comp has been popping up a lot. It's like the Fortune, Heartsteel, Mercenary, Lose Streak baby of like set 13. So it's pretty simple. You want to lose streak, you want to garner what's called shimmer. If you haven't watched Arcane yet, you gotta fucking watch it. But you basically accumulate shimmer as you keep losing. You can actually accumulate a little bit if you're winning, but you are incentivized to lose streak just based off the trait itself. I'll hover over the trait that we can read in case you're curious. But as you lose more and more and more, you garner more and more shimmer. The more shimmer you get, the bigger the cash out. But the only caveat to this cash out compared to cash outs in the past that we've seen is that you have to stay specifically within inside this vertical. You are not allowed to put these cash outs onto different types of units unless they have a chem-baron spat. So what this means is that there are actually very specific chem-baron items that unfortunately Tactics.Tools does not have them, so I can't actually show you what they look like, but they're pretty interesting. And basically, as you gain more shimmer, these items get stronger when you do decide to cash out. Now, what I like about this and what I think is really interesting is that one, because you don't have to pivot out, it makes this way fucking easier. But also number two, there's a lot of really interesting ways that you can play the line because it is a vertical. So what I mean by that is that the premier 4-cost carry in this line is Silco. He's a 4-cost, which I said already, but basically he's very similar to set 9 Silco. It's just AoE damage, it's AP. He just wants to cast a fuck ton. So, you know, things like red buff. I think people are saying like Shojin Nashers, I think on Twitter, as is like BIS. I'm not sure how true that is. We'll see once the stats are out. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's sort of like who you want to be itemizing towards as you're lose streaking. So like as the game is progressing, you're like, okay, maybe I should start, you know, trying to find Shojin components or Nashor's components or red buff components or Morello components, you know, stuff like that. Renata is a really interesting like angle for this line. I haven't seen anybody try it yet, but because Urgot fits into this line very nicely, he's not actually a chem-baron, but because his traits fit so nicely, what you can do is that you can kind of reroll for Urgot and Renata on 6, find the Renata 3 Urgot 3 and then like push your levels afterwards. Again, I'm not seeing anybody really try that way of doing it because you do want to try to hit like as high of a vertical of chem-baron as possible to stack shimmer faster, but that's definitely a potential out that could exist if the conditions are right. So that's something to keep in mind. So I wouldn't really try to play towards that, but just keep it in mind. If you can't find the Silicos, or you think you're not going to be able to go level 8 and then roll for the Silico, I've seen a lot of just staying at level 7 and you just roll for like the Smeech and the Rennie. These are actually TFT exclusive units, which is pretty cool. They're part of the Arcane show. But basically, Smeech is like the fucking, he like goes around and like jumps and hops everywhere and like slashes shit. And then Rennie is like a tank, but she has this, I believe she has like this like weird, like she like chainsaws the fucking units and then like throws them into the air and shit. It's pretty fun to watch. She's not necessarily the carry, but more of like a pseudo tank slash bruiser-esque, like you get the idea. But I think the general line is that you want to try to hit Silco 2, play around the Silco 2, and then work from there, stay within the chem-baron vertical. Savika as well is the 5 cost of this line, so if you ever get the Savika, really fucking fun unit. If you don't know what she does, she basically has like this sort of like mechanical arm that's like sort of like a lotto system, where like she'll roll like a specific thing after she is able to cast, and then randomly cast 1 of 3 different spells. It's super cool to watch if you haven't seen so already, but that is a really fun way to play. And then she is more of like an AD bruiser-esque. Like basically the idea being is that like if you can't get the Savika, you just itemize around the Smeech. He holds the Savika items, and then Savika you eventually pivot into to cap out your board. Mundo as well is not a chem-baron on this line. He's actually an experiment dominator, but he is like the premier tank in this line. He just fits a little too nicely, considering that Urgot and Nunu can fit into this line super well, getting you to 3 experiment, getting you the 2 bruiser, but also just in general, it just feels very fucking nice. But anyways, that's the line. Really cool stuff, and I highly recommend trying it out. The next comp I want to talk about is going to be Rebel, or more specifically Vex and Irelia reroll. Now, the reason why I put this comp on here, yes, it is a 1-cost reroll comp, but the reason I put it on here is because it's not necessarily like the most like, oh, crazy and creative and fun and wacky to play, but I think this comp is really good when it comes to just trying to get your feet wet when it comes to a new set. Super straightforward line, super straightforward items, super straightforward on which units to click. So if you're like very overwhelmed with TFT, especially if it's the first time you're ever playing, this is a really good comp to just plug it into your little team planner, bookmark, and make sure the bookmarks are showing up, and you just click whatever units are green and highlighted. Very easy to play. The items here are just recommendations, by the way. These are not like BIS, because we don't know what is true BIS until like the stats are out. But this is sort of my recommendation. Vex has a 60 mana pool, so I think Shojin's probably fine. I don't know what the exact numbers are looking like. You got Morello, you got Rabadon's, very straightforward. Irelia just holding your tank items. Gargoyle Redemption is typically very standard, and Morgana is sort of like, she's there, she's part of the crew. She's a visionary. So if you don't know, visionaries basically, they get, whenever they gain mana, they gain a little more than they would have normally gotten. It's like the easiest way to describe it. But that just helps with the Vex, just to help cast a little bit more. But also Morgana is just another 1 cost. Helps reduce the pool a bit more, so it's easier to find your Vex and the Aurelias. I wouldn't say it's a necessary, but maybe once the set is live and based on how the numbers feel and shit, maybe it is. There's like, I think there's like a Nami version of this board that's like floating around as well. I think it's fine. I kind of like going with Zoe to cap out at the end of the day though, just because Zoe is like a 4 cost that you can just sort of itemize with a little bonus items, and she can dish out like a decent like 5k damage at the end of the fight. So I'm sure this is good enough, right, to cap out a board. And again, it's a 1-cost reroll board. Competitively speaking, most of the time a 1-cost reroll board is not gonna like top 2 or win a lobby. Like, you're probably playing for 3rd or 4th, so trying to cap out with this for like a 3rd or 4th sounds about right to me. But anyways, that's basically the Rebel board. Oh, and finally, sorry if you don't know already, Rebel, basically all your Rebels gain at the time of recording this video 12% max HP, but once they go down to like a certain threshold, suddenly all the Rebels get bonus AP and AD, do a bunch more damage. So again, very straightforward board, very easy to play, and if you're trying to get your feet wet with set 13, I highly recommend this one. Moving on to another 1-cost reroll board is going to be conq reroll, or conq, more specifically, Draven and Darius. Now, this is something that you would play with an AD opener rather than an AP opener. And again, I like these 1-cost reroll boards when a set first comes out because they're super fucking easy to play. You just plug in the units in your planner and you just click on them and you get to start rolling fast, so the dopamine hits fast and it's a good time. Draven, I think Last Whisper, i.e. Runans, is probably going to be BIS. That one I'm like 80% confident on, and then Darius is going to be like an 8-day melee tank, so he's just doing like fucking whatever, BT, like Sterax, Titans, items like these. I think it was Dasik who said it, but I think he was like, oh, GA is like really good this set. I can't confirm because I haven't played enough of the set to really like say so or not, but apparently he thinks GA is good. I'm not really sure why. Rel's gonna be sort of like your main item holder for a while until you get to the Elise. But the way you cap out is actually pretty high. You get to play Mordecai, you get to play Ambessa. Really cool fucking unit, by the way. And you also get the Scion here again because Black Rose is just inside the fucking tree, and it's very simple. Swain you could put in the front row as well. He is a form swapper, and form swappers basically they become a little more tanky if they're in the front row, or they're a little more, you know, damage even in the back row. But from the way I understand it, it seems that because Vlad's also a one range unit, you kind of like your front line is so congested. So putting the Swain back here, or even the Elise back here, depending on what you find, and like, you know, just playing around with it and just seeing whatever you find, whatever makes the most sense. I can see this not being too terrible. Again, it just seems like you just kind of put it on whoever like you have items for. So like, it's whatever you're hitting. So for example, if you hit like a 2-star Swain like hella fucking early, just put the items on Swain, assuming that your front line is good enough, and then you can like fuck off on the Elise port. Or maybe like for some reason you find a lot of Elises really early. I don't know how the fuck that's happening before the Swain too. But itemize the Elise instead. Like, fuck it. They're sort of like your AP item holders, at least from what I can tell. At least until you get to the Mordekaiser, who's going to be holding like your Crown Guard, your JG, your Adaptive Helmet is probably super fucking good in this line, because it's just so flexible. There's a lot of flexibility in this line, which is super cool, by the way. Form Swapper, fucking A+ trait. But really, really cool stuff. Conquer, by the way, sorry, I should also be going over these traits as well, whenever I get the chance. Conquer is very, very similar to Noxus back from set 9. A lot of set 9 callbacks, it feels like the set. But basically, you want to be win streaking with this comp. That's why it's called Conquer. You want to conquer the fucking battlefield. But basically, you get more AD and AP as you conquer on your conquest. And basically, the idea being is that there's going to see a little like Noxus banner on like the right side of your board. And there's like a little counter that goes up. And then every time you hit like a certain threshold, you get a little bit of loot. Sometimes it's gold. Sometimes it's items, I think. I'm not entirely sure. But it's pretty fun. So if you think you have a strong win streak opening, I highly recommend playing this. Super fun line, super cool unit, especially Draven. I think Draven's like just very satisfying to watch as a unit. Next comp I want to quickly go over is going to be for Sniper. Now, if this positioning looks any bit familiar to you, that's because you probably played set 12 and you probably played quite a bit of Wukong Jinx. This line, I'm pretty sure, is going to be very, very similar in the sense that, like, Kog'Maw and Blitz are just Wukong Jinx, but in a different flavor, and instead of AD, it's AP. I think Purple Buff Kog'Maw is probably going to be the meta line, just because it does want to cast a lot, but I do think Purple Buff is, like, the easiest way to incorporate anti-heal into this comp. Nunu is, like, sort of a, if you find it, great. If you don't, totally okay. Not sure if it's going to be an actual suitable replacement for the Blitzcrank necessarily, but what's nice is that if you find the Mundo and you can't find the Nunus, just throw the Spark on Mundo and then just play around in Mundo too instead for your, you know, Spark holder. Totally chill. Very easy way to cap out this board as well is that this Zeri is sort of like a placeholder for the Caitlyn, and if you have Caitlyn, you get Enforcing, which is great, and then you probably just want Bruiser for like your Nunu, and so an Elise will do. So very simple, very straightforward line. Highly recommend trying it out. I think it's fine. I don't know, again, I don't know if Nunu or Blitzcrank is better. I've seen other people play this line. I haven't had a chance myself to play it. I really fucking want to, but the cards have not been dealt for me just yet. So one of these days I'll get to try out this line, but let me know if you think Nunu or Blitzcrank feels better, or maybe you're not supposed to play these as a reroll and you're supposed to just push for like Mundo or at least as your main tank instead. Again, numbers shift all the fucking time. We're trying to balance the game, you know, like Mortdog style. So we'll see, but very cool, interesting line at the very least. Finally, let's talk about for Conquer for Embassy. So, or sorry, not Embassy. What the fuck is it? I know what an embassy is, it's just not in the fucking set. Emissary, excuse me. This line is actually really straightforward. It looks very high cap, but it's not. You just don't play the Rumble until level 9. Super fucking simple. Rumble, by the way, really fun unit. If you find an early Rumble, you want to get it on your board ASAP because of its passive Junker King. Basically, every 3 rounds, open an army. Rumble gets stronger and stronger and stronger as the game goes. So, super cool and fun unit. Really cool way to cap out your board. But anyways, let's talk about the level 8 board real quick. Really simple. Garen is your main tank. Heimerdinger is your main carry. Adaptive Rabadons. I think I've referenced Dasik already in this video, but I believe he was the one that said double adaptive Rabadons is BIS. I don't know what the math is, but hey, that is somebody's suggestion, and their suggestion is better than mine because I haven't had a chance to really like fuck around with the numbers just yet. But it's very possible like Shojin and like, oh sorry, it's 40 mana. Probably blue buff might be better. I don't fucking know. Blue buff might be better. Like purple buff Heimer makes a lot of sense to me in this line.
Kingsmaid?
But that basically does it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. And again, Project Mentor signups close very, very soon. So if you're interested, the links are in the description below. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe. You know the fucking drill. And one more thing as well. Listen, we don't have any fucking stats. We don't know exactly what's good or bad yet. So if you play one of these lines that I suggested and you're like, you know, I played this line, but then I played like this kind of like different variation that seemed like way better, let me know, man. Like, I want to know. Or maybe I suggested something and you're like, holy shit, this shit's fucking terrible. Why would you even suggest that? Sorry. I thought it sounded cool, but like, let me know why. I'd love to hear your feedback. But anyways, hope you guys are having a good time. I've never ended a video saying that before. What the fuck? I mean, I do though. I do hope you're having a good time. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys all later. Take care, guys, and happy climbing.